Vedic Vision in the light of Sri Aurobindo. Before we start the session, we'll just step back for a few moments of silence. So very, very warm greetings to you all. I thought tonight I'd say a few words about Nama, but I can't really speak about Nama without putting this particular journal into context because it's all part of the Sri Aurobindo Society. So I'll say a few brief words about the society itself because it was started by the mother on the 19th of September 1960. And she was not only the founder and the executive president, but remains its guiding force. Now, from a very small beginning over the years, the Society has grown into an international organization working in diverse fields of life. It now has a vast range of activities: integral yoga, integral health, and integral education, of course, but also rural development, youth empowerment, leadership, business management, Indian culture, Sanskrit sculpture, many, many more activities. What the Sri Aurobindo Society does is seeks to bring a dynamic spirituality into material life and all its activities, so that global problems can find a true solution and the dreams of humanity through the ages can be realized. Now, as for Nama, the Journal of Integral Health, well, Nama, you might be surprised to know, isn't just engaged in running workshops, courses, and programs, because it's a long-standing and very insightful publication, which is available in print or as an e-journal. Nama is the Journal of Integral Health, and it looks at the influence of the soul or the spirit in man's search for health and well-being. And it examines man's physical and mental health in an integral way, looking at it in terms of its growth and spiritual progress, as everything is always interlinked. It looks at individual and social health from the perspective of the evolutionary process, so it's a vast field. And the range of material that we publish is really quite diverse. But the one common denominator is the influence of the soul on our health and its influence on the rest of our being. So Nama is published quarterly, and it's available online for subscription in either format, print or e-journal. So what I'll do is I'll put a post up with a group, and if you want to follow it up, then you can have a look. I definitely recommend you have a look and give it a try at least. So very much looking forward to this third session, and I hand over the reins to Dr. Vladimir Yatsenko.
Thank you, James. Thank you all for coming again. So we stopped in the middle of our presentation last time, and of course I would love to have your feedback. But any feedback or any question which is not directly related to our studies in this moment of time, I would encourage you to put it into our Facebook. Into our WhatsApp. In the WhatsApp, we have as the whole opened for all of you, so we can discuss it there, which will be much more useful for our time, and maybe will not confuse others because we deviate very often from the main track of presentation. I don't mind deviating, but I see that others are a little bit bewildered what is going on because it's not their question. They have their own and they want it to be answered or they want to discuss it. So the best forum would be WhatsApp forum. If it is something, burning and you want to totally discuss, then you can come forward, of course. There is no prohibition for that. And I encourage questions and discussions. So to continue today's presentation, I will have to go back to our PowerPoint, which is important because we cannot hold this knowledge, and to recapture what we did last time, which is kind of important. As you remember, we looked into the very idea of this creation, the meaning of it. This meaning is so unclear to all of us, and we have so many ways of explaining it that we never could really totally understand why we are here, what it is all about, all this world and universe and us in this universe. So this fundamental explanation which we received from the Mother and the Veda and Sri Aurobindo, they are fundamental for our it's kind of knowledge, knowing which everything else can be known. With this knowledge, you can discover everything what you have to discover and understand all the relations and meanings and priorities in your life. So that's why I am kind of presenting it first. Later, in the next session, I will present the whole structure of the Vedic gods and the world and cosmology and creation in different myths, and you will trace back to this original foundation. This will happen. You will start tracing back the whole reading of Savitri to this foundation. Life divine, you will see different meanings in the life divine after this foundation is settled. That's why I would encourage you to engage in the deep thinking and meditative contemplation on this topic. So, having said that, I'm projecting the slides. You see them, yes? So we covered something fundamental. We tapped into the very idea of the beginnings, of the one existent self who was looking for the ananda of unity, as Mother says, who wanted to be happy through, not through identity, but through unity, interacting with oneself in another presentation. And because of that, this world came into being. As Sri Aurobindo beautifully describes here, why should Brahman create these worlds if he is totally free, needing nothing, desiring nothing? Why to have this trouble? And then his answer is very simple. It can be only for one reason, for delight. All this world is created for delight. We live for delight. We are looking for that delight. Delight is the purpose, is the aim. The truth, as somewhere Aurobindo says, is a corridor to this major hall of delight. Truth is the means by which we arrive at delight. Mother explains this even more kind of functionally important. He wanted to exteriorize himself, objectivize himself. How could he exteriorize himself if he alone was? He is the only subject, the only one who exists everywhere. And he wanted to look at himself as if from another look of himself. Exterior. He wanted to be exterior, to see himself. He couldn't see himself. Seeing requires this objectivization. In order to know himself in detail, you have to objectivize, exteriorize yourself. So this is the purpose of what he, in other words, wanted to be many. Bahus yam, may I be many. Why many? Because he could see himself and know himself, to have a joy of knowing himself in detail. This is something very interesting. And to have that joy to see and know himself in detail, the time and space are needed, the gap, the extension. Because if you want to focus on one detail, or one property, or one particular formation of yourself in your infinite being, you need infinite time and space. Because through time and space, you can spell out your own infinite being and have particular relations with every formation and expression of oneself. So how could he who alone was become another? As the Shatapatha Brahmana says, he was not happy, he wanted to be another. How could he be another? He, another. If it is he already, how can he be another he? Yeah? So you can imagine that he had to forget himself in one part of himself, as it were, withdraw his supreme awareness from his being or his power, withdraw part of his awareness from his being for that being not to be known as himself, in order to engage with that and to come to oneself with the outer look, objective look onto himself. This is how he proceeded. So the night was necessary. We have to understand this absolutely important topic, the creation of the night. The night and dawn, we will deal with this symbolism later in our presentations. But the night is the foundation of him not knowing himself as himself. And in order to discover himself and you in all his infinite qualities, he had to have that forgetfulness. He had to forget himself. So I use this, you see at the background, this picture, the light is around and within there is this darkness. It's our universe, you know, where he does not know himself and which he has to penetrate, to enter himself by himself. He enters his self where he does not remember himself, by his self where he knows himself totally. And that self which enters into the self of not knowing himself is psychic presence, the soul, the power of love, the flame burning from within the darkness, rising from the depth of the inconscient. The first avatar. This is what we covered in our presentation. In the mother's story, she doesn't say only that there was only one emanation. She says that there were 4 emanations, 4 supreme emanations of one supreme. This is the picture by Huta. So you see one supreme emanating in 4 aspects. And these aspects are important for us. Consciousness in light, light. Knowledge, awareness of himself. Bliss, the delight, which is the result of the consciousness power. When being is conscious of himself, he is totally blissful. This is the bliss of identity. That bliss is a result of him being aware of himself. And truth is absolutely necessary. Truth is the projection of Sat Chit Tapasa, Ananda, into the formation of himself as manifestation. It has to be true to the self, to himself, and then life. Interesting word, life, which I think is used in a sense as eternal life, as divine existence, which cannot die. And in that sense, we can see that they are the replica of Sat, Chit, Tapas, Ananda, and Vijnana. These are the four emanations: Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vijnana. Chit, Ananda, Vijnana, Sat. Why in this order, interestingly? Because the last one will fall the last in these falling emanations. First, consciousness in light falls down. And this consciousness in light drags down the bliss. So once the light turns into the darkness, the bliss cannot sustain itself, because there is no awareness of the being, so the bliss turns gradually into suffering. Bliss is an intense delight restricted in consciousness, in darkened consciousness. By the way, Sri Aurobindo even experiment with this, that he turned the pain into bliss, because pain is nothing but bliss. Only the consciousness is darkened. We do not see where it is coming. The intensity of the delight is restricted, narrowed and darkened by the lack of consciousness. But when the consciousness is widened, every painful experience is actually a bliss. We do not have that experience because we are in the restricted consciousness. And then when bliss fell down, it dragged down the truth, the very idea of truthful manifestation, which turned into falsehood. And only then he, who alone is, could actually experience death, interruption of his own existence being, in the body. So this order is important, which Mother gives. Yes, it reminds us also of the Bible, that Eve, as a representative of consciousness, kind of attracts Adam, who is the self, with her falling. She wants to drag him into manifestation by her own fall, as it were. Well, it's a symbolic story. I'm not going into it. So once this happened, and these four emanations, Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vijnana, turned into the opposite, into the darkness, night, into the suffering, into the falsehood and death, the Divine Mother turned to the Supreme and said, look what happened, let us find. And he told her, you find new emanations which can precipitate this and bring them back to their self-awareness, to redeem them, to bring them back to the Supreme. And she first found the gods. We discussed about the gods, yes? But the gods refused to go there. They were scared about that darkness, suffering, falsehood, and death. They didn't want to plunge into the darkness. Then she found another force which was greater than gods. That was the force of love. And that force of love could plunge, agreed to plunge into the darkness to redeem the fallen emanations. And that force of love is our psychic being, Agni. We are sparks of the flame within the darkness. The immortal among mortals. It is we who do this work of redemption through us. We took unto ourselves these fallen emanations. We took unto ourselves darkness, suffering, falsehood, and death, and deal with them in every incarnation. So when that happened, and yes, we discussed, so he entered himself by himself. Something was found within the Supreme which could pervade his self where he did not remember himself. So in something else I want to say here, which is important. So if you look from this point of view, we will see that the darkness is nothing but light, where he does not remember himself. So light, which forgot the Supreme, is darkness. It is light. But it has no connection with the Supreme. It is separated from it, as it were, and that's why it is darkness. The suffering is nothing but bliss which forgot its origin and disconnected from the Supreme. The falsehood is nothing but truth, which is forgotten and deviated from the Supreme. And death is nothing but life, eternal life, which disconnected from the Supreme. This is an important understanding of these fallen emanations. Yes, we read these beautiful lines. When all was plunged in the negating void, plunged, descended. Non-being's night could never have been saved if being had not plunged into the dark. So being had to plunge into the dark to maintain, to save the darkness, to save those fallen emanations in their workings. And if that would not happen, the evolution would not take place, because the fallen emanations would fall in their total oblivion. He sleeps in the atom and the burning star. He sleeps in man and God and beast and stone because he is there. The inconscient does its work. Because he is there within the darkness, the world forgets to die. Otherwise it would die. It would really dissolve itself. As the Veda would say, it was unsteady, shithilamiva, adhruvamiva, when the fallen emanations fell into the opposite. And to sustain them, to make them work towards the Supreme from the bottom up now, with the evolutionary process, unfolding all the levels of being which were fallen in this very gradation, from this highest to the lowest. Now they have to recover their levels to the highest. He had to enter it and to make it steady in this process of evolution. So as Sri Aurobindo says, the soul of the divine is here slowly awaking out of its involution and concealment in the material inconscience. This is what we learned from the previous presentation. I wanted to repeat it because this is fundamental. If we understand this, everything else really will fall into place. Now we will follow Sri Aurobindo and see what he offers us, how he explains this evolution. The terrestrial evolutionary working of nature has a double process, says Sri Aurobindo in the Life Divine. There is an outward, visible process of physical evolution, with birth as its machinery. For each evolved form of body, housing its own evolved power of consciousness, is maintained and kept in continuity by heredity. So that's what we know from Darwin, Darwinistic evolution, yes? Bodies are evolving. With our genome, genetic code, we pass all the modifications, adjustments, learnings within the genome. We pass to our children, children to our children. This is how we continue by heredity. And that process from body to body has to be constant. It should not be interrupted. Otherwise, if it is interrupted, the species are gone and there is no way to come back to them. So everything is kept in the body. Body is accumulating all the changes. It is this body which is the transformative station, which took unto itself all the darkness and transforms it. We are this station of transformation station where all the work is done, recorded and passed forward in time. But there is at the same time an invisible process of soul evolution with rebirth into ascending grades of form and consciousness as its machinery. So what is happening with the soul when soul comes, evolves, reincarnates, It takes the body, the genome of the parents, starts dealing with it, working with it, modifying it by experience, enlarging, learning from it, and learning herself. Soul learns also how to be in time and space, how to engage with mind, vital, and body, and grows its own capacity through this experience. There is at the same time an invisible process of soul evolution. Soul is also evolving. Psychic being is evolutionary being. It's not Jivatma who is not evolving. It is Antaratma, Angushtamatra, Chaitya Purusha. Psychic being within the heart, Hridi Guhayam. The spark which is growing, the presence is growing and becoming more and more formed into the being. We do not have psychic being formed at once. We have only the nuclear, the spark, the presence, and that has to grow into the being with the interaction of the mind, life, and body, with these fallen emanations. Interacting with them, it grows into the being until it is able to come to the front and take charge of the whole system. But it grows within. We are not aware of it. We are not aware even about our reincarnations. So, there is also one explanation which is quite interesting by Sri Aurobindo from the metaphysical point of view. He speaks about the same process differently. I just want us to tap into different languages and different approaches to knowledge, because they will help us not to be bewildered by the words, but to see the same process. Brahman, says Sri Aurobindo, has projected in itself this luminous shadow of itself and has in the act begun to envisage itself and consider its essentialities in the light of attributes. Now, the shift from essentialities to attributes, to the perceiving all the details within himself. He who is existence, consciousness, bliss, envisages himself as existent, conscious, blissful. So he becomes self-oriented. He gets his self-identity in all these details and expressions. From that moment, phenomenal manifestation becomes inevitable. The unqualified chooses to regard himself as qualified. Saguna Brahman. The one becomes the many. This is the philosophical language of the same. There are no two creations, no two stages, just one, as it were. But there is not one, there are two. He decided to see himself in that way, and he manifested within himself self-awareness as Atman. So let us look into these two fundamental notions of Indian psychology and Indian philosophy, Brahman and Atman. Why they are both there. Sri Aurobindo, by the way, if you read carefully his Life Divine and Synthesis, often, like 80%, speaks about the spirit and the self, self and spirit. Why does he say self and spirit together and not just spirit or self? He mentions them both, spirit, self and spirit. And there is an explanation to it. This is spirit. Spirit is existence, consciousness, bliss. These emanations fallen into the supermind, Vijnana, Manas, Prana, and Anna. This is the reflection of these emanations fallen into their opposite. Yeah? This fundamental realm, it's like to say horizontal coverage of our existence. But Atman is something else. Atman is that awareness within the Brahman. When Brahman becomes self-aware of his own plane of consciousness, he becomes Atman. Atman, self, according to Sri Aurobindo, Satpurusha is divine self, Chaitanya Purusha is all conscious soul, Anandamaya Purusha is all blissful soul, from where we come. We all come from this Anandamaya Purusha, direct reflection from Anandamaya Purusha to our into our heart. Vijnanamaya Purusha, great soul, where the whole manifestation is forged with regard to Satchit Ananda. And then Manomaya Purusha, mental being, Pranamaya Purusha, vital being or self, Atma, and Annamaya Purusha, Annamaya Matma or Annamaya Purusha. These koshas later, they are called koshas later in the post-Vedic period, but in the Taittiriya they are called Purushas or Atmas. Annamaya Matmanam Upasamkramya, Pranamaya Matmanam Upasamkramya, Manomaya Matmanam Upasamkramya, Vijnanamaya Matmanam Upasamkramya, Anandamaya Matmanam Upasamkramya. And he sits and he joins self after self. He joins Annamaya Purusha or Atman, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. He piles them up in their self-awareness. And this is the realization of the Taittiriya. So this has to happen, this rising from the material form. This material form, Atman, is the material self, body. By the way, Atman in the Veda is called always, is meant as the body. It's translated as the body, understood as the body, not as the self, some higher self, but as the material self. So this is something important. One is the horizontal coverage, and the other is more like a vertical coverage. And the knot in between is actually we are. It's ourselves on all these levels. So this explains why Brahman and Atman are together, and they are not very much distinguishable. In the Indian tradition, they say Brahman is Atman, Atman is Brahman. But truly speaking, these are two different definitions of the same. Yes, one is self-awareness, and other is just the level, existence as such, existence, matter as such. Yeah? Matter, not my material body, also my material body, but without self-awareness is me separate self from the rest of the matter. So there is something else we have to look into to understand this, this double creation. This is very psychological and very important. The distinction between the involved psychic being, Chaitya Purusha, and uninvolved Jivatma. Sri Aurobindo speaks about this very concretely. The true being may be realized in one or both of two aspects, the self or Atman and the soul or Antar-Atman, psychic being or Chaitya Purusha. So when Sri Aurobindo says Atman here, he means Jivatma and Antaratma. Yeah? These two are very important for the integral yoga. The difference is that one is felt as universal, the other as individual, supporting the mind, life, and body. So this is universal. It feels like an uninvolved, unborn self. Other is involved and individual. When one first realizes Atman, that witness Purusha, one feels it separate from all things, existing in itself, and detached, uninvolved, looking at everything from the detached perspective. Udasinatvam, yes, sitting above, as it were. When one realizes the psychic being, it is not like that. For this brings the sense of union with the divine, that very union he was looking for, that additional ananda, and dependence upon it, and soul consecration to the divine alone, and the power to change the nature in the frame of the divine and discover the true mental, the true vital, and true physical being in oneself. That means to redeem fallen emanations. Both realizations are necessary for this yoga. We have to understand these two realizations because they are also a key for our understanding of the Veda and Savitri and all the texts connected to integral yoga. So the witness, Jivatma, looks at everything as the divine. Everything is here for him, the divine. In that or other form, in the fallen or the not so fallen form, it does not really make preference to any one of them. It embraces all as the divine already. But the look from the psychic is different. It accepts nothing but the divine. And everything which is not the divine here, it rejects. Or deals with it, changes it, transforms it into the divine property or prototype. It has to undo that darkness, has to remove the unconsciousness from it and make it self-aware of its divine property. So one accepts everything as the divine, other accepts nothing but the divine. These are two different approaches which both are necessary for integral yoga. And they are very different. Very different. Many people who realize the unborn self, they say, why are you bothering? Everything is going in accordance with the divine. And those who have psychic realization, they have very different attitude. They are fighters for the divine. They are warriors here. Right? There was a very good example which I want to bring forward today. The discussion of by Ramakrishna when somebody, some Brahmin, sannyasin, came to his ashram with concubine, with some, prostitute. And they lived together, a sannyasi and this girl. And it was discussed in the evening talks with Sri Aurobindo. And they asked him why Ramakrishna was so furious. He said, get out from my ashram. And he said, sannyasin to him, why are you so worried? Everything is Brahman. I am Brahman, she is Brahman, you are Brahman. This is this look. Everything is the divine. Full acceptance, equanimity to everything. But Ramakrishna said, but I spit on your Vedanta. Spit. He could not accept it. And Sri Aurobindo says, because he was looking at it from the psychic perspective. Psychic cannot accept this. Cannot accept that everything is the divine, therefore all the falsehood is welcome. No way. So these two attitudes are fundamental for integral yoga. Both of them are needed. The equality, everything is the divine, and at the same time, we accept nothing but the divine. They may look contradictory to the mind, but they are fundamental for integral yoga. So maybe I will stop here for a second before I conclude today with the triple transformation, which will maybe I conclude and then we have questions, otherwise. So, to sum up the whole thing, the first creation, the first fallen emanations was the fall of the spirit, which laid out the field for its future manifestation, night. All the levels of consciousness were unfolded gradually, creating all the worlds in the involutionary order. From light to darkness, from superconscient to the inconscient, from spirit to matter, all the grades. It is our ladder which later we will be climbing up. Second creation was a plunge of the Supreme into the darkness of material inconscience. bringing the aspect of the self, Atman, into existence in terms of individual growth and realization. From this point, matter becomes animated, alive, and the evolution takes place. It goes on till the psychic being is fully individualized and formed, and the instruments of its expression, body, life, and mind, are fully developed to embody the spirit. So the redemption is taking place of these fallen emanations with this intrusion of the Supreme Self into the darkness. Now, this is highlighting the major contradiction of our psychology. We have the soul within us, who is the divine and looking for the divine manifestation, which is in the midst of the fallen emanations and restricted consciousness and capacity and suffering and falsehood and death. And that is unacceptable for the soul. Absolutely unacceptable. As somewhere Sri Aurobindo says, the death is the humiliation for our divine spirit. It's not something we have to accept. We have to look at it as something we have to undo from the point of view of the soul, of course. So this contradiction between the truth in us and untruth in us has to be somewhat resolved. Nature in us cannot resolve it by herself. It's taking too long. The spirit who is involved is to help this nature to resolve it. And what help else should come? And Sri Aurobindo brings another dimension to it. The third creation, which I call, is the supramental descent, which reconciles nature with the soul, enthrones the psychic being as the Lord of creation. It will come up, grow to the surface as the Lord of creation, and gives it direct access to the higher realms of being and consciousness, to Satchitananda. Satchitananda is now entering into the lower hemisphere of the matter, prana, and mind, fulfilling it from within, establishing the law of the spirit in the whole nature. This is the vision of Sri Aurobindo. Now I will give you some of his quotations and we will stop here for discussion. There are different statuses of the divine, says Sri Aurobindo in the Life Divine: individual, universal, and transcendental. Individual is our psychic, universal is this nature, and transcendental is what we want to bring into this nature with the help of the psychic. There are also three statuses of transformation. First is the psychic transformation, in which all is in contact with the divine through the individual psychic consciousness. We can have individual connection to the divine. Next is the spiritual transformation, in which all is merged in the divine, in the cosmic consciousness, the one who sees himself in all the being and all the being in himself, from the Isha Upanishad. And the third is the supramental transformation, in which all becomes supramentalized. The truth is finally manifested, the truth consciousness, yes? There is no more falsehood. In the divine Gnostic consciousness, that means we will have access to Satchitananda without distortion. So here there are three quotations with which I will stop. Psychic transformation. The psychic being, says Sri Aurobindo, is a flame born out of the divine, and luminous inhabitant of the ignorance grows in it till it is able to turn it towards the knowledge. Ignorance is to be turned towards the knowledge, and that is the aim of us being here. It is a deputy of the unborn self, Atman. It's a projection of Jivatma in the forms of nature, the individual soul, supporting mind, life, and body, standing behind them, mind, life, and body, watching and profiting profiting by their development and experience. Our instruments of knowledge, our bodies grow in awareness, in capacity, and the psychic is profiting from it. If it can come forward into the front and govern overtly and entirely this outer nature of mind, life, and body, then these can be cast into soul images of what is true, right, and beautiful. And in the end, the whole nature can be turned towards the real aim of life, the supreme victory, the ascent into spiritual existence, redemption of all the fallen emanations. The spiritual transformation is the next. Notice how he starts it. It's all his quotations. The psychic being can, by the spiritual influx, relations with the gods, with the faculties of the divine in nature, in the universe, enlarge itself and embrace the whole world in an intimate communion or oneness. It could feel oneself everywhere as the whole universe with the help of these cosmic powers. Or it may become aware of its eternal companion, his higher universal soul, and elect to live forever in his presence. It's like Krishna and Arjuna, or Mirabai and Krishna, in an imperishable union and oneness, as the eternal lover with the eternal beloved, which of all spiritual experiences is the most intense in beauty and rapture. Constant seeing the divine, Krishna in everything, in the tree, in the cloud, in the wind, feeling his presence, hearing his flute, in everywhere, because the divine is everywhere, but we didn't discover it yet because we didn't make the spiritual transformation. We do not have the psychic in front to embrace the whole world. But once we do it, we see the divine is everywhere. And we can elect to live forever in his presence, not moving anywhere. It's like Hanuman, who rejected to go with Rama to heaven. He wanted to live here in this world and to see Rama in every possible way. This is the highest expression of bhakti. All these are great and splendid achievements of our spiritual self-finding, but they are not necessarily the last end, an entire consummation. More is possible. This is Sri Aurobindo. Even more is possible than this. What more you can desire than to see the divine in everything and live forever in his presence? And the more is this supramental transformation. The psychic transformation, notice again psychic, he starts with psychic because this is the point. After rising into spiritual change, has then to be completed, integralized, exceeded, and uplifted by a supramental transformation. In supermind is the integrating light, the consummating force, the wide entry into the supreme Ananda, Satchitananda. The psychic being uplifted by that light and force can unite itself with the original delight, of existence from which it came. We all came from that delight, and we can reunite with it in time and space in this manifestation, overcoming the dualities of pain and pleasure, delivering from all fear and shrinking the mind, life, and body. It can recast the contacts of existence in the world into terms of the divine Ananda. And this is the end of our story. Here I stop. and open to your remarks, questions, insights, enlightening, kind of lightening of the aha moments. Please share them. They are very important for others.
Vladimir, this is Suchitra here. I cannot start my video, unfortunately. Sorry.
Yes, start with something very positive. Don't say, oh, I don't understand, or something. Say, I understood everything. I am finally there. The only thing I have... If you have a question related to the presentation, please go ahead.
Yes. I wanted you to elaborate a bit on how the darkness is actually light. You know, that part which you explained with respect to the fallen emanations. If you could elaborate a bit on that, that was very interesting. And but I don't seem to have really grasped it well. That is one. And then maybe slide number 19, which you were speaking about, and even that, a bit of elaboration, it could help me a little. Thank you.
Yep. Slide 19 about the double process of evolution. What is this double process? There is uninterrupted physical evolution of the bodies going forward, and the soul is coming, taking the body, living the body, passing all the changes, leaving the body because it cannot sustain it, because the body is incapable of being in the highest unison of the spirit, of the soul. So it is shrinking slowly because it's made of darkness, suffering, falsehood. It's not aware of the supreme origin. And because of that, the very substance which our bodies are, our bodies, mental, vital, physical, cannot sustain itself longer the certain period. So it has to be dropped. But the seed was cast again. Like trees are also casting the seed. We are all casting the seed. We cannot sustain our life in the material form only through the generations, through genome, through children we have. So my child or somebody else's child will have a child and child and child. So my grandchildren, so to say, will accumulate all the changes over this period of involvement of many souls, and then I come, jump into that body, take already all the changes which I also made and they contributed, and push it forward. So I'm jumping over many bodies. So to say, I prepare for myself my future body. Interestingly, in the Veda, the body is called Tanu. Tanu means extension in time and space. It's a particular extension of this spiritual enterprise, or spiritual evolution, as it were. So these are the bodies. All bodies, we are all working for one purpose, to make suitable dwelling for the divine, for his embodiment. Yeah? This is the idea. Regarding the darkness as light, even physically, if you look at the darkness and all the levels of light, infrared and so on, you will see that the darkness is not totally dark. Yeah? There's less and less light, as it were. It becomes more and more darkens, as it were. So when it is totally void of any light within, which is difficult to imagine, but there is a level of that density, that means the light is kind of not there in that sense. It's not the particle in a way. It is the ether which is holding the particles. We don't even understand how these particles travel through the ether space. They are not flying. No? Through the space, like from one place, like ping pong. This is not the way how light travels. It's actually something else, which we didn't figure out yet. We will figure out soon, sooner or later. But this is, the ether itself is a light. Light which can be darkened or can be lightened up, which can temperature, which can be immensely increased or decreased to a certain degree, to minus 273 Celsius only. Beyond that, there is no life. There is nothing. We cannot go beyond minus 273. So you can see it's a temperature bubble. This temperature bubble is that very light. But the gradation of it can be decreased with the intensity of consciousness. So in that way you can think of it. Of course, it's just a symbol. Any other thoughts?
Can you explain again what is the horizontal and the vertical? I think of them both as vertical, so I'm missing which one is horizontal.
Both are vertical is good. Yes, they are both vertical because every Atman is Brahman, nothing but Brahman. Only Brahman, it's like my material body is myself, yes? This is Vladimir material body, so to say. But Brahman is all matter, all your bodies and beyond. Existence and existent, consciousness and conscious, bliss and blissful. It's like a dot from which you become blissful in the whole bliss. In that sense, it's a figure of speech, actually. You don't need to use it if it is not really appealing to you. For me, it was very revelatory once.
Vladimir, this is, I'm going to, my question arises from your earlier answer. Body is not been able to pace up with the ways of the spirit, so it extends itself, it continue itself by the seed.
Yeah.
Then the soul, once we find that the body is already developed, it jumps into that body. But
No,
then the body,
yeah.
sorry, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds, yes, go ahead.
So, does it mean that the soul jumps into the same lineage of the body? Because
No.
seed is, no?
Not at all, not at all. It chooses the body it needs for its own self-development. It may choose even a less developed body for its work, or more developed body for its work. It actually knows it. We discussed this in Yama and Yami hymn. It knows it because there is a correlation of its own need. It has an intention of the development of its soul. So it needs to take onto itself the part which is useful for it. That's why we choose the parents, the culture, the country. Our soul has chosen it. It's not a blind choice. But it doesn't have to be the same lineage, not at all. The lineage is important within the body, yes. Within the body, the lineage is important. That's why you have gotras, yes? You belong to a particular lineage of the body, because that was, the genome was accumulating the particular quality of that lineage in the body, not in the soul. It started from the soul, and then the lineage was maintained. That's why it's so important for the kings to have, to have progeny. If they don't have progeny, they interrupt the lineage, and that is it. It's done. It is lost, as it were.
So that means that the soul in this one particular birth may born in India and create a lineage of the body, but in the next birth, he may travel into a different country.
Absolutely.
Different body.
Yeah.
And there again create a new lineage of the body.
Yeah, and it benefits from it because it wants especially that particular environment in which it will be most helpful for its own self-development and contribution to the development of the humankind. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vladimir, I had a question, please.
Yes.
Yes. The psychic being that we are talking about, it's like a seed in us, but does it grow physically from lifetime to lifetime? Does it have a form?
Form.
Yes.
Well, hands, head, yes, talking. Let's talk. I'm not sure about the form. I thought about more like a light presence, which when it comes to the front, it takes the form of the human form of the body. Mother speaks about this formation of the supramental body. Yeah? Supramental body will be made on the ground of the psychic. This is a totally mystery for us. We are so far away from even thinking about it. But the body is a replica of some kind by nature. It's like ego is a replica of the psychic, yeah, in the nature. So the body is a replica of the psychic, which it has to come to mean on the surface. So the psychic will grow and become the supramental body here, which will be very dense. We spoke about this body of the future. The organs will change, yeah, the whole track of digestion will disappear, sexual functions will disappear, the breath will remain, all this, it will be very dense with dense light, but this is the very far from us, from today, from this physical animal body which we inherited from the past. We inherited it from the animal nature. It is still having these animal features. And we are struggling with them because they are actually dragging us down back to the animal life. And we want to go forward with the soul. And this is a constant, ongoing interaction between the two. But it will have the body. The psychic will have the body in the spiritual or supramental form. Absolutely.
Thank you. And can the psychic sometimes even just leave
Yeah,
physical body
can leave. Yeah,
without death?
yeah. Can leave or can be even pushed away. There are many ways of the embodiment. We had the whole webinar, the whole series of webinar of the embodying of the soul, what happens, when it comes and when it leaves, and what is happening. The mother explains beautifully everything there. Maybe I will give you the reference and you just look into it, because it is really very, very full topic. Yes, there's so much to learn from it and to understand our embodiment, where and how soul is embodied.
Thank you.
Yes, Pooja.
Hi. Can you briefly talk about this Atman and psychic being, where you said that in integral yoga both the transformations are required? Does that, I mean, once that psychic transformation comes, then we will know what is divine, what is undivine. Till then, how do we know what is divine, what is undivine? One question. And second question is, does Vedas also talk about that these two things are necessary, or they only talk about only one of them?
They do, oh yeah, they talk about both of them, yes. But it wasn't highlighted so much as in Sri Aurobindo's sense that psychic is evolving. Since psychic is evolutionary being, it has its own kind of, it learns, yes, it is still learning. It has direct connection to Anandamaya Purusha, to the transcendental source. Yes, it is correlated always by that. It meets everything in this mental, our thoughts, vital, our feelings, emotions, our body, our diseases, our incapacities. It meets all of them with the light of consciousness. And it tries to modify them, to change them to their capacity. And divine capacity, divine prototype. It converts them into the divine prototype. But the self above is unborn self, was never born. will never die. It is the witness which is uninvolved, always looking down on what is happening here, what Prakriti is doing. It is that Purusha, as witness Purusha, which Sri Aurobindo realized, and he calls it an experience as the silent Brahman experience. Yes? A total silence, viewing oneself as if you are in the movie. You see yourself as if you are in the movie. Everything is seen as Maya, as an illusion. Everything is equally valuable and not valuable at the same time. This equality is fundamental, and it is absolutely necessary for the psychic to orient itself properly, to really be more efficient in the work in nature. Because many times psychic, as Sri Aurobindo says, by the way, he added this in 40s, in 1941, 42, the passages to his Life Divine, where he explains that the psychic being too long with human beings already acquired the qualities which are more of that emotional nature, and psychic may err, he says, may be mistaken even, without this support of the unborn self. So it needs the support. It needs a constant connection with the unborn self in order to proceed forward. Yeah? This is something we have to learn in this yoga. There are more things to learn.
Thank you.
Any more insights?
Vladimir, when you talked about the first two creations and then the third creation as per Sri Aurobindo, so the first two creations obviously happened many thousands of years ago. And the supramental creation is the supramental descent of 1956.
Right, absolutely.
Okay. So that's a very recent creation to hasten the evolution.
Yes, to reconcile between nature and the spirit within it. This reconciliation cannot be done by neither nature nor the soul within it.
Okay.
It is incapable of doing it without the supramental interference. In time, of course, in time it will happen even without the supramind will manifest in time, but there is time already for supramental manifestation, and Sri Aurobindo and the Mother hastened that connection finally, that our spirit can be nature. Nature is the spirit, yes?
Do the Vedas also refer to the supramental anywhere?
Yes, Sri Aurobindo says they were looking for supermind in the realization in the ascending grades more than the descending. Descending was mainly from the overmental realm of the gods. Gods were preparing the soul for the spiritualized transformation. Yes? Spiritual transformation is all the time in the Veda. But supramental change of the physical is highlighted as the search for immortality.
Okay, that was highlighted by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother.
Yes, Sri Aurobindo speaks in few places. We can take those, yes, quotations and analyze them because they are confusing for many people, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vladimir, I had a question from Savitri. In Savitri, when she gets the psychic realization, the psychic self merges with the Atman. So my question is that a natural progression? With the psychic realization, you also have the Atman realization, so the two merge into one.
Yeah, that is a very mysterious thing of integral yoga. These two, that means psychic is totally developed. Yeah? And basically that allows the supramental manifestation. When there is no more delegate of the Atman in the midst of nature, that Atman itself is that delegate, you can imagine what it means.
May I ask something?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Uh,
I just finished this sentence. And also in Savitri itself, the psychic does have a form because it talks about the gaze. You know, the spirit looked at her and they recognized each other and rushed into one. They
Yeah, gaze
united.
in a spiritual sense, like the faculty of consciousness, yes, that they see, they have the connection through body to body, because gaze, you look is always apprehensive, you recognize the self. There is the connection, the contact took place, yeah, physical, substantial, substance contact. Through substance merged into substance. There was no other body anymore. So it grew one. Yes, that's why gaze. How else we could explain this? So there was a gap. First, gaze is a gap, and then gap was reduced.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, please, Taya.
yes, I just wanted to ask something quickly. So you say that psychic being is evolutionary being. So does that mean that everything, that the nature, the flowers, the animals, they all have the presence of psychic being as well?
Absolutely. Mother speaks
Okay.
about this so beautifully. That the
Okay.
whole nature, the whole earth is a psychic presence. And the whole earth is a psychic being of the universe. It is only on earth that we can progress, grow in consciousness, because when we embody ourselves into the physical body, physicality is the formation of the earth, which is psychic formation. And in that sense, we can progress. Only through psychic consciousness we can grow. We cannot grow without it. We cannot grow without earth. All the greenery is a psychic presence. These flowers, look at these flowers. These are, Mother says they have so much psychic presence, sometimes more than people can have, the flowers. They're pure. And so we have to look at nature very differently now. Yeah. It is a living being. It is giving us life. Just look at this greenery if you walk. What a miracle. It is all living, evolving, growing, casting seeds and dying and continuing through the seeds, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Unanimated thing also has a psychic presence?
Say it again. Yes, absolutely. Animals. They are closer to
Unanimated.
us. Huh?
Unanimated.
Unanimated nature.
Like a stone and wood and which is not life, which is not in life, which is not growing.
Right, here we come to Selby's dilemma, animated and unanimated nature. And most probably, animated nature is already a change of unanimated by the psychic presence. So it takes unanimated nature, the stone, and makes it a soil from which things could grow. Yeah? Water could flow, and so on and so forth. It generates the spiritual presence in it, which brings life into it, yeah, and that starts living, moving, reproducing, and so on.
Vladimir,
Yeah.
I observe in your presentation that you say the divine exteriorized itself in the process of creating this world that we live in. And I think that is the basis why human being lives more on exterior side than living from inside, interiorized.
Absolutely.
So I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking he created something, now we have to undo.
Yeah. Well, he wanted it, yeah. He wanted to be many. And this many is not yet fully conscious, but it grows in consciousness from reincarnation to reincarnation, becomes more and more capable of becoming supreme. That was the whole plan, yes, but he wanted to maintain that outer look. That's why, absolutely. And by the way, outer look, if you look later into these fundamental faculties of consciousness, samjnana, ajnana, vijnana, prajnana, And prajnana is exterior seeing himself, yes? Seeing, it is for the seeing purpose that he manifested himself. He wanted to see himself outwardly, in the body, in the mirror. How could you see yourself in the mirror if you are not the body? So that's exactly that, HP. And prajnana is the purpose for which this manifestation came into being. It's really marvelous that we are so many him are here in different forms, minds, different, ways of interacting, finding the joy of interaction. This is what he wanted, and he got it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more? No ahas. Some ahas? Only questions? HP gave us aha, but yes, please, Vasudev.
Yes. So yesterday you were mentioning this. We had discussion on the archetypal character of Indian tradition. So in that, I just want to mention something that this is a sort of nature having a quadruple, which I find in that, say, of course, I won't call it a Indian tradition, but we have this Indian conception of a society and a spiritual society, a spiritualized society, which Sri Aurobindo is the chariot of Jagannath represents a spiritualized society, and in which the Sri Aurobindo, in his essay on the chariot of Jagannath, he wrote the very first line is that the ideal society is the vehicle of the indwelling Godhead of a human aggregate, the chariot for the journey of Jagannath. Unity, freedom, knowledge, and power constitute the four wheels of the chariot. So, with this respect, I would like to just what you have talked about this individual, the universal, and the transcendental. And is it possible to relate this, the journey of this, the society, to how it
Oh, yeah,
moves? And
absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
that is a very the process it undergoes, and of course it is very much related to what all you tell. But I would like you to elaborate more so that it is more understandable to us.
There is man of knowledge, man of power, man of exchange, of delight, and the man of service holding all this in one. These are the Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Vijnana. These are the four Mahashaktis of the Mother, Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. This is the foundation of all our activities here, and they can't be anything else by these four, and they build the society. In the society, you have to have a man of knowledge, you have to have a man of power who regulates the royalties, the kshatriyas. You have to have the man who distributes the delight in many ways. Yes, services, money, the exchange of trading. Yes, the blood has to move and exchange and connect all the organs in one living organism. And you have finally the Shudras who are supporting, who are really manually doing things which nobody will do kind of unconsciously, which is not true, consciously restricting to very particular perfection in the embodiment. And that is the Mahasaraswati. Mahasaraswati deals with every detail without any withdrawal, or she's never tired, tirelessly works on every detail until it is perfectly done. So you have these four major powers, and of course they constitute society, even if you don't see them there. And as in Western society, we don't see them as separate classes or varnas, but they are there, definitely, absolutely. These are the four wheels of the chariot. Yes, absolutely. These are transcendental Satchitananda Vijnana, those first fallen emanations, which have to be unfallen.
And here, Sri Aurobindo, here he humorously talks about that the chariot being pulled in different directions and so many goes, and so he gives a wonderful description of what is actually taking place in the world.
Oh yeah.
Thank
If
you.
the wheels are not working together, can you imagine each wheel is moving in different direction? Where a chariot would go? They have to be in the same direction. They have to work for one purpose. We have to understand our purpose here. And by the way, we have to become that chariot. We have to become Chaturvarnya. We have to be ourselves a man of knowledge, of power, of exchange of light and delight, and the service. If we build this purposely, clearly within ourselves, we become as universal Purusha. We are individual Purusha, but we are a replica of universal one. And this universal one has all the four Varnas. We have all the four powers of the Mother to work within us. And that is the future of this development. And then psychic will be in front.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to identify with ourselves with the chariot, a part of it.
We are the chariot.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah? Something else? Too many things, yes, to discuss.
I just want to reiterate that again today, even more profoundly, I see the arc of the whole Christian theology in this redemption of the four emanations. It's just astounding to me.
Absolutely. Sacrifice. What he gave, he sacrificed. That is the soul of the divine. Sacrifices himself for the sake of redemption of these fallen emanations. This is the symbol of Jesus being crucified. Absolutely.
Just a thought that when Auroville was created, the foundation of Auroville, that arts from different nations have been brought and put into the urn, and possibly from 52 countries it has come. And then it is that identification that all the nations are essentially one, which talks about Sri Aurobindo talks about, and we take pride. All nations take pride in their own individuality, but we merge there in one consciousness with which the Auroville was founded. It's simply marvelous.
Yes, well, with nations it's much more complex because nations are also individuals, collective individuals formed by the divine, Sri Aurobindo says. There is the soul, nation soul behind, which is choosing a particular place on earth, interesting, some land. That land over thousands of years with these individuals is identified through language, culture, history. They are building, they are actually benefiting from that land, being supported there, developing a particular view on the world, very psychic, very different, very colorful. Every language has this depth and uniqueness of look at the world because of these nations. Nations should never have been disturbed or demolished or erased or effaced. They are like the flowers. Flowers, different flowers have to be on earth to make it colorful. You cannot demolish all the flowers and leave only rose and say rose is the best. It doesn't work that way. The variety of colors, of fragrances, of relations, the richness of the spirit is within the nations. And interestingly, Sri Aurobindo speaks that he is a nationalist, and his nationalism is in Sanatana Dharma. Interesting that he uses nationalist word. Why? Nation is not a small thing. We do not know what nation is. And somebody asked him, and what happens when the nation stops using the language of the nation and is not identified with the culture of the nation? So demolished, kind of absorbed by other nations, like it happened in many countries. Russia, for example, demolished hundreds of nations. They forgot their languages, forgot their culture. They became nobodies. And this is true. This is happening. It's not like the same in India. India is very different. Every nation is holding on. Yeah? And what happens then? They ask, what will happen to the nation soul if there is no more carrier of that particular view or connection? And he says, then the nation soul dissolves itself in the spirit. So do we want them to be dissolved in the spirit, or want them to make a richness of our culture here and all possible views on life? Many formations nowadays, especially these empires like Russian Empire or even US, doesn't have that, consideration for the uniqueness of the nation. They do not have it. Yeah? They are built on different principles. And because of that, they don't understand Europe. Why Europe is so holding, everyone is French, Germans, and so on. Everyone has his own, and they don't have even borders nowadays. And when you travel from Germany to France in the car, then you feel immediately you cross the border. There is no border, but you feel the same field was French and now German. You feel the shift. You try yourself. Those who traveled in Europe, they would feel, oh, it's a very different perception. If you move from Russia to Finland, somebody said even mosquitoes disappear in Finland. There are no mosquitoes there. They are only on Russian territory. So this is an amazing thing. These nation souls are mystery for us. We never discovered what they are meant to be. And Mother created pavilions in Auroville. The pavilions of different nations have to be there for us to learn from other nations, their cuisine, their culture, their songs, their their folklore, their poetry, music. We had to go from one to another to learn the richness of the spirit. These nation souls are psychics. They are connected to the psychic being. This is psychic formation of earth, with human beings interacting. It's a profound mystery. So I would not erase it and say that we need only one individual spirit, because this is a simplification which leads to many misunderstandings. Great. Thank you for all your questions. If nothing else, no reflection anymore, then we stop here with a minute of silence. Namaste. Thank you all.